بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين نبينا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين أما بعد. So we're going to continue with Min Hidayat, Surah Al-Fatihah, some of the benefits and guidance found in Al-Fatihah. We stopped last week, we did Al-Ikhlas wal-Mutaba'ah, the two conditions for deeds to be accepted found in Al-Fatihah: sincerity and following the sunnah of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. That was last week. And the next chapter is As-Sirat al-Mustaqim. As-Sirat al-Mustaqim. So he says, Hafidhullah, Shaykh Abdul Razak, that is basically broken down into 4 points. The straight path in Al-Fatihah, the straight path in Surah Al-Fatihah is broken down into 4 points, 4 sections. أولاً Al-Hidayah ila Sirat al-Mustaqim Minnatullah. That if a person is guided, guidance is a gift from Allah Jalla wa Ala. It's a ni'mah. It's a gift from Allah Tabaraka wa Ta'ala. He says, Thani, and secondly, so meaning that's the first discussion. The first discussion is going to be on the fact that guidance is from Allah and not from anyone else. That all guidance is from Allah Jalla wa Ala. The second discussion is Ma huwa as-sirat al-mustaqim. What is the straight path? What is considered to be the straight path? ثالثا عوائق السير على الصراط المستقيم. Distractions or obstacles that are in the way of a person following the straight path. What takes a person, as we say, what takes a person off the straight path? Or a lot of times we use the word deen. What takes a person off their deen? He was deening or she was deening, and then they're not deening. I'm not on my deen. Which is, that's the term used, but a more correct term would be the Sirat al-Mustaqim. Where a person might consider themselves as not practicing properly, which is usually meant. They're not really practicing. Or sometimes people say, I'm not practicing. They might just say that. What are the obstacles that deter a person or take a person off the straight path? Rabi'an, the fourth thing, men hum ahlus sirat al-mustaqim. Who are the people that are on the straight path? So these are the 4 points, the 4 points of discussion in this chapter. So the first one, أولاً al-hidayah ila sirat al-mustaqim minnatullah. And he discussed this before, or it might have been the book Al-Istiqamah. It might have been in the 10 principles that keep a person on the religion. Al-Istiqamah, 10 principles of righteousness. That Allahu al-Hadi yahdi man yasha wa yadhillu man yasha. That Allah is al-Hadi. He is the one who guides the people. So he guides whoever he chooses to guide, and he leads astray whoever he chooses to lead astray. And this is something that we all have to understand, that the guidance is not in our hands. No matter how much da'wah, or how much we talk to a person, or how much dalil we might give them, that the guidance is ultimately from Allah. We always hope that if we're talking to a person and we're trying to explain to him Islam, we hope that we can reach him. We hope that Allah gives us the ability to articulate and the clarity to speak so that the person listening understands and accepts the message. But ultimately, if they accept it or if they don't accept it, it's not up to us. As Allah told the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, إِنَّكَ لَا تَهْدِي مَنْ أَحْبَبْتَ. He told Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wasallam, the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he said, indeed, you don't guide the people that you love. That the guidance, وَلَكِنَّ اللَّهَ يَهْدِي مَنْ يَشَاءُ. But Allah guides whoever He chooses to guide. And He told this to the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wasallam. So we have to understand that as a qaida, a principle, that the guidance is from Allah, which doesn't mean that people are not affected by the way we behave, by the way we talk to them, by the way we give them da'wah, the way we tell them about Islam. That doesn't mean that it doesn't have an effect on people. That the way we behave in itself is a form of da'wah, especially the way we dress, beards and throws, and you know, the sisters here, at least here in Philly, the sisters, niqab, black, that it stands out, so people are constantly looking and paying attention all the time. So the way we behave in general is da'wah. So therefore, when we don't carry ourselves Islamically according to the Sharia, how Islam taught us to behave, then of course the non-Muslim judges the whole religion based on us, based on that one action that we do. Right? They base the whole religion based on that action, which is not a fair assessment, but it is the reality. It is what it is. A person possibly, not everybody, but a person might judge the whole deen based on that one interaction that they had with you. One business deal went wrong, one agreement went wrong, and they say the Muslims, they don't hold their word. They're supposed to be. And everybody knows that the Muslims are supposed to be the best. So they say the Muslims, man, they don't stick to their word. Or they say, you're supposed to be a good brother. Everybody knows. So it's a form of da'wah, just the way we behave and deal with people. It doesn't mean that every time we give da'wah that it's going to be accepted. That's not the case. But Allah guides whoever He chooses to guide. He says, Allah Ta'ala, Allah said in the Quran, and Surah Yunus, Ayah 25, Wallahu yad'u ila dar as-salam, wa yahdi man yasha'u ila siratin mustaqim. Said that Allah calls you all to dar as-salam, wa yahdi, and He guides whoever He chooses to guide to the straight path. طيب. Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he said in his tafsir, he said that إن الله لا يدعوكم إلى جمع الدنيا. Allah tells us in this ayah, He's not calling us to compiling and being totally concerned about this world only, the dunya. Gathering up whatever can be gathered, whether it's money, it could be property, anything that's going to give a person a taste of the dunya. That's not the end-all, be-all. That's not the total, that's not the goal, as Allah tells us in this ayah. That Allah calls us to, يَدْعُوا إِلَى دَارِ السَّلَامِ. Imam al-Qurtubi rahimahullah, he said Allah doesn't call us, meaning the ayah means Allah doesn't call us to compiling and gathering things and piling everything up that we can get our hands on in this life, in the dunya. بَلْ يَدْعُوكُمْ إِلَى الطَّاعَةِ. But He calls you to, Allah calls us to obedience. Obedience, which is a general term that includes a lot of things. In order that a person, so that a person, that obedience will guide them on the path to paradise, Jannah, that is salam. And then another, also in that tafsir, he brings a statement of Qatada and Al-Hasan rahimahumullah, that as-salam, and He guides whoever He chooses to the straight path. Allah said in another ayat, وفي الآية الأخرى يقول الله أفمن زين له سوء عمله فرآه حسنا فإن الله يضل من يشاء ويهدي من يشاء. To show, these ayat are showing that Allah guides, and that's the importance of paying attention in Al-Fatihah to the dua that we always make, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم, where we ask Allah every day to guide us. We ask Him, keep asking Him for guidance, guide us to the straight path. He says in this ayat, is the one who sees, the one who commits sins, disobedience, but they see it to be obedience. They're evil, committing evil, right? Disobeying Allah, but they see it to be okay when they do it. Is this person like the other one? فَإِنَّ اللَّهَ يُضِلُّ مَنْ يَشَاءُ. Allah Jalla wa Ala guides, or He misguides whoever He chooses, and He guides whoever He chooses to guide. فَالْهِدَايَةُ بِيَدِ اللَّهِ. So guidance is in the hand of Allah. And it doesn't mean that we don't try to give da'wah. It doesn't mean we don't try to tell people about Islam. It doesn't mean that we give up. But we have to understand, ultimately, we're not the people who change hearts of people. All we do is deliver. We deliver the message, and we make dua and ask Allah for guidance. He said, "Afi dua al-qunut, Allahumma hdini fi man hadayt." Oh Allah, guide me to be of those who You have guided. And there's many du'as, many adiyah that we ask Allah for guidance. He says also the hadith of Ali radiallahu anhu, qala li Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, that the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam said to me, "Qul Allahumma inni as'aluka al-huda was-sadad." He told Ali, the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam, he told Ali to make this dua, "Oh Allah, I ask You for guidance and as-sadad." As-sadad, which is to practice the sunnah of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam in all actions, in all that we do, all acts of worship. As Shaykh Abdul Razak mentioned in another explanation of that dua, as-sadad is to hit the mark. To hit the mark when it comes to following the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. So, knowing that guidance is in the hand of Allah, that we're in need of dua. If a Muslim knows this, then we know how important Surah Al-Fatihah is. Because in Surah Al-Fatihah is the dua for guidance to the straight path. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. Tayyib. He says, the dunya is filled with, this is another reason for the importance of asking Allah for guidance, because the dunya, this world, is filled with bil-fitan, and it's filled with sawadif. It's filled with things that take us away from the straight path. The dunya is filled with things that take us from the straight path. Like what? Number one, he says, for example, shaitan. That the shaitan, his job is to distract us away from the obedience of Allah. But what else could take a person away from the straight path? Could affect a person to the fact that it leads them away from the straight path, other than the shaitan. I'm not blaming the shaitan. Huh? That's sure? Ghafla. Being negligent, that's their own, that's a benefit from the Allah. Alhamdulillah. Being negligent, which is jade. Being negligent of our surroundings, being negligent of the people that we keep around us. What else? Being negligent, jade. What else could deter a person or distract a person from the straight path besides the shaitan? Huh? Could be family. As he says, Qulana Su, which are the people that we basically keep around us, which generally, we don't generally just get rid of our families, but you might have to change the people, meaning your friends, companions. You might have to change those people if they have no benefit to you. It could be that they're affecting you to the fact that your deen is getting weaker, so you might have to change. You might have to distance yourself from those type of people. Anything else? Sawadif is solid. Sawadif. Things that would turn the patient away or in the way. And all of these come under hidayahs from Allah. He said the last thing, an-nafs, al-ammara bis-su, the nafs itself, a person's desires pushing them and tugging at them, which is a struggle in itself that we fight against our own selves, which is that itself is a struggle by itself that a person has to know. We all have to know ourselves, and we all have to know where we're strong at and what I'm weak at, so that we can protect ourselves from giving in and falling victim to our own desires. طيب. He says, وَلِهَذَا قَالَ مَنْ قَالَ. He says, it's a statement that people say, because there's so many things that could take a person off the Sirat al-Mustaqim, off the straight path. He said, and he just mentioned a couple. Those are just a couple. Shaitan, it could be evil companions. It could be your own self, just following your own desires. Right? Ghafla, being negligent. There's a lot of things that could deter a person and distract a person from the straight path. Sometimes it could be family. So Allah says that sometimes the family is a fitna. Sometimes it could be the halal. It's not necessarily something that's haram that always takes a person from the straight path. It could be the halal, but it could be going overboard in the halal. Going overboard in something that is permissible to do. It's permissible to do, but a person goes overboard in that thing to the point that it takes up all of their time. It takes up all of their time, and they possibly, Allah protect us, they possibly leave off fulfilling the obligation to do something that is mustahab. They might leave off doing something that is obligatory because they want to do something that is permissible to do. It's permissible, or even if it's recommended, that we don't leave off obligations to do things that are recommended, that the obligation has a higher status. Meaning, the salat is obligatory. So we don't leave off the salat, right? We don't leave off praying the salat, and praying the salat on time, and praying the salat in its proper time, fulfilling all the conditions of the salat, for every salat throughout the day. We don't leave off the salat, praying on time, because we're going to go jogging, right? We're going to go jogging. So after Asr, we're going to go jog, right? Say we're going jogging at 5 o'clock, we're not going to be back. That doesn't mean we just jog on through till Isha and we don't pray Asr on time. Jogging is permissible, no problem, alhamdulillah, it's good. But that doesn't mean we leave off the obligation of praying and praying on time to do something that is maybe a recommended act, or at least it's permissible. He said, for this reason, for so many things that can distract the person, it's a statement that says, لَيْسَ الْعَجَبْ مِنْ مَنْ هَلَكَ كَيْفَ هَلَكَ. It's not amazing or strange that the person who was destroyed, or they went down the path of destruction, it's not strange how they were destroyed. وَلَكِنَ الْعَجَبْ مِنْ مَنْ نَجَى كَيْفَ نَجَى. But what's strange is the person who was successful, how did they succeed? Because there's so many things that can distract us from the straight path. How does a person stay upon al-istiqamah, be upright and stay on the straight path? And all of this is from Allah Jalla wa Ala, which shows the importance of the dua in Al-Fatihah. Ihdina as-sirat al-mustaqim. That it's not something that we just saying, but it's a dua, and it's a serious dua that Allah Jalla wa Ala placed in Surah Al-Fatihah. Tayyib. All of this shows the great need for Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala. The great need that we're all in need of Allah Jalla wa Ala, and we're all in need of His guidance, and that none can guide a person to the straight path except for Allah. And when a person is on the straight path, no one can misguide him. Which again, it doesn't mean that we just do what we want to do. As I've heard brothers say, they're giving dawah, and they're correcting people. Because we make mistakes. Everybody makes mistakes. Nobody's perfect. So when they go to correct a brother or a sister, they go to correct them. A lot of times we don't ask. They might be new to Islam. They might be new to information. They just might not know. So we go to them and we correct them, and we have no mercy. No mercy when we deal with each other. Hard. No mercy. Right? No rahmah. No rifq. No gentleness. We're not soft with each other. We go to them and we hard. As they say, nails. Right? So you tell them, Akhi Kareem, you got to be soft with the people. You can't. You're going to run them away. You're doing that. If you do it like that, you could possibly run them away. What's the response? Which is a khata. It's truth, but it's used in the improper place in this statement. You talking to them like that, you're going to run them away from the deen. They say what? Allah guides whom He wills, I see. No doubt Allah guides whom He wills. But in da'wah, when it comes to da'wah, there's ways to do things. There's ways to do things. And there are ayat connected to da'wah. Those ayat connected to da'wah, being gentle and being lenient, and using harshness when it's needed, and being gentle when it's needed. But harshness has to be used as needed, on an as-need basis. The asl, and when we're giving people da'wah, we're trying to call people to Islam, the asl is not that we disrespect them, right? We disrespect them, call them names, degrade them, right? Make them feel like they're the worst people on earth. That's not the asl. Tayyib. He said that's the first question. So the first discussion was on that all guidance is from Allah and how we are all in need of Allah's guidance. It says, ثانيا ما هو الصراط المستقيم. What is considered the straight path? What's considered the straight path? The straight path is, as he says, الصراط المستقيم هو الطريق الذي لا إعواج فيه ولا ميلان ولا انحراف ذات اليمين ولا ذات الشمال. He said it is the straight path, that there is no crookedness. There's no crookedness in that path. There's no inhiraf, there's no bending to the right or to the left. It is a straight course, and this is what is meant by as-sirat al-mustaqim. There's nothing crooked about it. Everything about the path is correct and upright. He says, قال رسول الله صلى الله عليه وسلم قد تركتم على البيضاء ليلها كنهارها لا يزيغ عنها بعد إلا هالك. That the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam said, I have left you upon a clear path. The night of it is like the day. It's clear. No person leaves off this path that I've left you on after me. No person leaves it. No person leaves this path after me, except that they will be destroyed. Except that they will be destroyed, which shows the importance of the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because you got people who downplay the importance of the sunnah. Muslims who downplay the importance of following Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Same Muslims that say, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. They say the shahada, and then they downplay the importance of al-ittiba', of following the teachings and the guidance of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So in this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ, he tells us that the path is clear. He left the path for us to follow. Anybody who deviates, goes off the path, will be destroyed. In order to know the path, it takes ilm, knowledge. Nobody wakes up knowing the sunnah. That it takes learning. It takes effort to sit, learn. What am I supposed to be doing? What is from the guidance of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam? What should I do in this situation? Is there a narration? Is there anything that the Messenger ﷺ did in this type of situation? It takes learning what the straight path is. The problem we have is we live in a time where we accept anything that anybody says. If it sounds good, we take it. If such and such said it, it must be right. Even when it comes to the news. If it was on the news, it must be the truth. Allah musta'an. The doctors, they said it's proven. The doctor said it's benefit. Even though sometimes we find the same things that the doctors might just find out. They're finding out now that it's a health benefit that the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he might have told us and guided us to it 1,000, 1,400 years ago. But we didn't take it. But when it comes on the news, it must be true. Studies show. If they say studies show, then we give in. Khalas. It's proven. So how you know? He says studies show. Studies show that this is beneficial for you. When in reality, many times, the Messenger ﷺ, he already taught us those things. And I always mention one of the biggest things was cupping. The hijama. The hijama. Because when it came out, it was all over the news and everybody was making a big deal about it. Cupping, like they just figuring this out. It's a big deal now. When the Muslims have been doing it since the time of the Messenger ﷺ. We found all the health benefits in it. But when it came on the news that one of the Olympians was doing it, he's doing it, Right? He's doing an ancient technique of cleansing that's been proven. Right? When they use all of that, then we say, man, I need to try that. Right? Allah musta'an. It said that the straight path, I left you on the straight path. The night of it is like the day of it. It's clear. Nobody goes astray from that path except that they will be destroyed. Which shows the importance of following the sunnah of the Prophet ﷺ. That the sunnah takes precedence over the statements of people. Which sounds basic, and it is basic, but it's Islam 101. Like Imam Malik said, every person, and we always say it, but we have to be, it's called tatbiq. Tatbiq. Implementation of that statement, tatbiq, al-qawl. Everybody's statement is accepted, can be accepted or rejected. Anybody could be wrong. Anybody could be wrong. Somebody could be right or they could be wrong. He said everybody's statement is either accepted, can be accepted or rejected, except for illa sahib hadha al-qabr. Except for the person in this grave, and he pointed to the grave of the Messenger alayhi salatu wasalam. There's nobody who's right all of the time. Everybody's statement can be accepted or rejected. Could be right, they could be right, they could be wrong. Except for him alayhi salatu wasalam. That we follow his guidance to the T. Sallallahu alayhi wasallam. He says, وَسُئِلَ ibn Mas'ud radiyallahu anhu. Ibn Mas'ud, the Sahaba. We know his name, right? Ibn Mas'ud's name? Abdullah bin Mas'ud. That's not a trick question. Abdullah bin Mas'ud, radiyallahu anhu. We should know his name. We should know their names. He said, somebody asked him, Ma huwa as-sirat al-mustaqim? What is the straight path? What is the straight path? This is the Sahaba. The one who the Messenger ﷺ said about that generation, Khairun nas qarni. Khairun nas qarni. The best of the people are those from my generation, the Sahaba. Somebody asked him, what is the straight path? Qal, he said, huwa tariq. Tarakana an-nabiy sallallahu alayhi wa sallam fi awwalihi. He said, it is the path that the Messenger sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he left us at the beginning of the path. He said, wa akhiruhu fil jannah. And the end of the path is in paradise. This path he left us on, sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he left us on the beginning of the path. If we follow the path, we end up, it leads us to Al-Jannah, paradise. Allahu Akbar. Which shows again the importance of knowing the sunnah. Knowing the sunnah, number one, what's sunnah and what's not sunnah. And number two, not just knowing what it is, but following, implementing the sunnah. As Imam Ahmad rahimahullah, in his collection of a hadith, that he would try to implement every hadith he collected at least once. At least one time. At least one time. And he collected the Musnad, which if I'm not mistaken, around 40,000 a hadith, that he would try to implement the hadith at least once, every hadith at least one time, so that he could be considered from Ahl Hadith. Now imagine if we collected books and books and books and books and books, with narrations and narrations of hadith of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but we're not using them, and if we're not implementing them. The Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam said in the hadith, Al-Quran hujjatan lak aw alayk. The Quran will be a proof for you or a proof against you Yawm al-Qiyamah, if you implement the Quran. If we implement the Quran, it's a proof for us, and if we don't, it's a proof against us. Another hadith showing the straight path that the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he says, وَقَدْ وَضَّحَ النَّبِيُّ صلى الله عليه وسلم هذا الصراط بمثل ضربه للصحابة. He gave the Sahaba radiallahu anhum, and Allah be pleased with them all, he gave them all another example of what is the straight path. فَخَطَّ خَطًّا. So he drew a straight line in the ground. وَخَطَّ خَطَّيْنِ عَنْ يَمِينِهِ. And he put two lines coming off that line to the right. وَخَطَّ خَطَّيْنِ عَنْ يَسَارِهِ. And he put two lines off of that path in the middle to the left. So you got two lines coming off to the right, two lines coming off to the left, and one path in the middle. ثُمَّ وَضَعَ يَدَهُ فِي الْخَطِّ الْأَسْوَدِ. Then he put his hand on the middle line, and said, Hada Sabilullah. This is the straight path, the one that was in the middle. And then he recited, then he recited the ayah from Surah Al-An'am. All of this shows the importance of the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. For those who try to belittle and act like the sunnah is not that big of a deal. And there's people like that. This is not, there's people who think that they can suffice with following the Quran only. And if they were to honestly, truly follow the Quran, then the Quran points us to following the sunnah of the Messenger sallallahu alaihi wasallam. He said, this is the path of Allah, and then he recited the ayah, وَأَنَّ هَذَا صِرَاطِ مُسْتَقِيمًا فَاتَّبِعُوهُ وَلَا تَتَّبِعُوا السُّبُلَ فَتَفَرَّقَ بِكُمْ عَنْ سَبِيلِهِ. He recited the ayah from Surah Al-An'am, ayah 153, and this is the straight path. So follow it. And don't follow the other paths, because those other paths will divert you and take you away from the straight path. So it's important to understand and know what is the straight path. What is the path that we've been left with? As the Prophet ﷺ said, that is clear. The night is like its day. If anybody leaves it after me, that they'll be misguided. What is that straight path? As Ibn Mas'ud said, radiallahu anhu, it is the path that the Messenger ﷺ left us on. He left us on this path at the beginning, and if we follow that path, the end of the path, as he said, akhiruhu fil jannah. The end of it is in paradise. It ends in paradise. He says, لأن الشيطان جالس للعبد في طريقه المستقيم يريد أن يأخذ به ذات اليمين وذات الشمال. Because the shaitan is waiting to distract us from the straight path. And this is another reality that we got to remember. That we're constantly at war. We're constantly at war with the shaitan. There's no breaks. He doesn't let up. There's no breaks. As Allah said in the Quran, قَالَ فَبِمَا أَغْوَيْتَنِي لَأَقْعُدَنَّ لَهُمْ صِرَاطَكَ الْمُسْتَقِيمِ. It said, the fact that you have misguided me, the shaitan said, the fact that you have misguided me, I will sit and wait on your straight path. Wait to push them away from the straight path. And that could come by many ways. It could come many things. Many things could take us away from the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And again, it doesn't always have to be something that is haram. As Ibn Qayyim, he has a book. Ibn Jawzi has a book, Talbis Iblis. Ibn Jawzi, I forget. Talbis Iblis, the deception of shaitan. Ibn Qayyim, Ibn Jawzi, rahimahullah. Talbis Iblis. And in that book, he talks about even the deception of the shaitan for the ulama, for the scholars. For the scholars. Scholars of fiqh, that they can be deceived in something that is permissible, something that is praiseworthy, right? That it could lead them overboard sometimes. So the scholars of hadith, the same thing. Or the Quran, the reciters of Quran. That these are praiseworthy things, things that Islam permissible, recommended, highly recommended, possible, and those things could still possibly drag a person to leaving the straight path, going overboard. As we ask Allah salam al afiyah, ask Allah to protect us from going overboard. I mean, to keep us balanced, because the sunnah, Islam is balanced. Islam is balanced. Islam doesn't promote extremism, and Islam doesn't promote being negligent and too lenient. Islam is balanced. It promotes balance. The sunnah is balanced. He says, so the shaitan is going to wait, as Allah mentioned in the Quran, أَكْثَرُ الْخَلْقِ مَاتُوا عَلَى الْكُفْرِ بِاللَّهِ وَعَلَى عَدْمِ الشِّكْرِ. It says, so knowing this, as it comes in another ayah, where Allah says, or at the end of the ayah, when shaitan says he's going to wait on the path. He said he's going to come in bayna aydihim, from every angle. He says from every angle. من خلفهم, from behind them. وعن أيمانهم, from their right sides. وعن شمائلهم, from their left side. He says, I will come from every angle possible in order to distract them. Which is another heads up that we got to be paying attention. That it's possible that the person that is deening, the person that is staying away from disobedience to Allah, is possible that they can still leave the straight path through something that is permissible. He said that I'll come from behind them, from the right of them, from the left of them. وَلَا تَجِدُ أَكْثَرُهُمْ شَاكِرِينَ. That you'll find that most of them, most of the people, will not be grateful. They won't be thankful. Shaykh Abdul Razak says, أَخْثَرُ الْخَلْقِ مَاتُوا عَلَى الْكُفْرِ بِاللَّهِ وَعَلَى عَدَمِ الشُّكْرِ لِلَّهِ. Most of the people, will die disbelieving in Allah Jalla wa Ala, and they will die without thanking, without being thankful to Allah Tabarak wa Ta'ala, as Allah says, وَمَا أَكْثَرُ النَّاسِ وَلَوْ حَدَثْتَ بِمُؤْمِنِينَ. In Surah Yusuf, Ayah 103, where Allah says, and most of the people, even if you were diligent in calling them, most of them, even if you're diligent and you're serious in calling them, that they won't believe, It's a ni'mah that we thank Allah that Allah chose us to be from the Muslims. Allah chose to be from the Muslims, which is the ni'mah in itself. طيب. He says, and this next section is, what time is it now? 8:10. If it ain't already one? طيب. The next section is Awa'ik as-Sayr ala Sirat al-Mustaqim. The third section, as the first one was that guidance is from Allah, there's a gift from Allah. The second section, what is the straight path? The third section, obstacles in the straight path. What diverts and takes a person from the straight path? And he breaks it down into three things, but we'll do them next week. He says, al-A'ik al-Awwal, A'ik al-Shirk billah. One of them is putting partners with Allah Jalla wa Ala. Al-A'ik al-Thani, the second thing, A'ik al-Bid'ah, the obstacle or of innovations in the religion. Al-A'ik al-Thalithu, A'ik al-Ma'siyah. And the third thing's disobedience of Allah Jalla wa Ala. But we'll stop there until next week. Any questions?
What's the three again?
Say it again.
What was the three to say?
The three, the first one, a shirk. Putting partners with Allah is one of the things that diverts a person and takes him away from the straight path. The second thing, bid'ah. Our favorite topic. Bid'ah. Allahumma musta'an. And the third thing, ma'siyah, disobedience to Allah Jalla wa Ala. These three things are three things that, as he says, جاء في سورة الفاتحة نفسها. That these things are extracted from Surah Al-Fatihah. In Al-Fatihah we can find these things. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll start with that next week at 7:30. We keep it at 7:30 for now. Inshallah. Wa sallallahu wa sallam wa barak ala nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam.
Third one was
Yeah.